In late May, Marx returned to Trier due to the death of his brother Hermann. Over the next 2 months, he continued to endure painful family conflicts. His mother was at odds with him over their father's inheritance, while his fiancée Jenny suffered in a home atmosphere hostile toward him at the end of June. After a fierce quarrel with his mother, all financial support from his family was cut off. He left home and stayed at an inn, remaining in Trier until his sister Sophie's wedding. During this period, his second article for the Provincial Assembly concerning church disputes was banned by the censorship authorities. The archbishop had been illegally arrested by the government, and Catholics demanded the bishop be put on trial. Marx commented that defenders of the state took the church's position, while defenders of the church took the state's position. The foolish Cologne Catholics fell into a trap. The affair ended dramatically, with Prussia kissing the Pope's shoes before the whole world. William IV entered peace negotiations with the Roman Curia. Marx returned to Bonn in July. In a letter to Rouge dated July 9, he wrote, "Since April, I have worked at most 4 weeks in total, and even that intermittently. Most of my time has been wasted and ruined by the most unpleasant family conflicts. My family has placed many obstacles in my way, leaving me temporarily in severe financial straits. However, it is truly fortunate that the slanders of society have tempered a strong character, to the point where it is impossible to become angry over personal matters." The ultramontane Cologne Gazette, uneasy about the growing influence of its rival Rhine Gazette, publicly denounced the latter as an enemy of the state in an editorial number 179 by its editor Hermes on June 28. In early July, Marx responded with the editorial of the number 179 Cologne Gazette, marking the first open clash between Cologne's 2 leading daily newspapers. The Cologne Gazette argued that disseminating philosophical or religious views in newspapers was impermissible. Marx sarcastically noted that the article itself denied its own right to exist. The Gazette claimed the state was too tolerant of recent philosophical schools attacking Christianity, asserting religion was the foundation of the state, evidenced by even the most primitive form of religion. Naive fetishism elevates man above sensual desires to some extent, preventing him from sinking to the level of beasts. Marx countered that fetishism, far from elevating man above sensual desires, was instead the religion of sensual desire. Desires create illusions that tempt the fetish worshipper into believing lifeless things can alter their nature to satisfy his greed. Thus, when the idol ceases to be his most obedient servant, the worshipper's crude desires will smash it. The Cologne Gazette stated that the rise and fall of ancient great nations stemmed from the rise and fall of. Marx wrote that the author completely inverted history. Greece and Rome were ancient nations with the highest historical civilization. Greece's internal peak was the Periclean Age. Its external peak was the age of Alexander. In Pericles' time, sophists, Socrates, art, and rhetoric displaced religion. The age of Alexander belonged to Aristotle, who denied both the immortality of the individual spirit and the gods of existing religions. Rome was even clearer. Read Cicero. At Rome's zenith, the philosophies of Epicureans, Stoics, or skeptics were the religion of educated Romans. Ancient religions perished with their states. No further explanation is needed, as the ancients' true religion was the worship of their nation and their state. It was not the death of ancient religion that caused the fall of ancient states. Conversely, the fall of ancient states caused the death of ancient religions.
Had Roman authorities heeded the editorialist's advice to ban Lucretius and Lucian, would the ancient world have been saved? From this passage, we see the influence of Epicurus' naive materialism from Marx's doctoral thesis, and the French naive materialist view of history from his Bonn notebooks. On state education of citizens, Marx wrote that the state's true public education lies in its rationally public existence. The state educates its members by making them members of the state, transforming personal aims into universal purposes, crude instincts into moral inclinations, natural independence into spiritual freedom, enabling individuals to delight in the life of the whole, and the whole in the convictions of individuals. The state is a vast institution where legal, ethical, and political freedom must be realized. Here, like Hess, Marx holds a Feuerbatian humanist and Hegelian rationalist view of the state, still distant from his later mature Marxist conception of the state as an instrument of class rule.
Marx continued, philosophers do not spring from the earth like mushrooms. They are products of their time and people. The finest, most precious, and most hidden essence of a people is concentrated in philosophical thought. The same spirit that builds railways with workers' hands constructs philosophical systems in philosophers' minds. Philosophy is not outside the world, just as the brain, though not in the stomach, is not outside the human body. Philosophy interacts with the real world internally through its content, externally through its expression. Philosophy is becoming worldly, and the world is becoming philosophical. This reflects the practical dialectics Marx explored in his doctoral thesis, later articulated in the first thesis on Feuerbach. Feuerbach failed to understand human activity itself as objective activity, viewing only theoretical activity as truly human, thus ignoring practice. Consequently, he did not grasp the significance of revolutionary, practical critical activity.
Marx added, history repeats being opposed is philosophy's fate, evoking love and hatred among contemporaries. Just as isolated steam boiler explosions killing passengers cannot refute mechanics, isolated deaths from indigestion of modern philosophy cannot refute philosophy. Around the time of Copernicus' great discovery, the law of gravity for states was also discovered, first Machiavelli and Campanella, then Hobbes, Spinoza, Grotius, and finally Rousseau, Fichte, Hegel, who began observing the state through human eyes, deriving its natural laws from reason and experience, not theology. In July, as Marx concluded family affairs and devoted himself fully to the Rhine Gazette, British forces captured Zhangjiang, threatened Nanjing, and secured victory in the Opium War. Qing troops suffered thousands of battle deaths, with civilian casualties ranging from thousands to tens of thousands.
In August, the Treaty of Nanjing was signed, China's first modern unequal treaty, beginning its descent into semi-colonial status. Almost simultaneously, in summer 1842, after over 2 years of severe economic depression, widespread strikes erupted across Britain. Strikers removed plugs from steam engines to halt production. In what became known as the Plug Plot Riots, the climax of the Chartist movement. On August 17, MC Duell presented a petition at the Chartist Conference in Manchester calling for insurrection to achieve the People's Charter. Circulated in the name of the Chartist Executive Committee without conference approval, it drew fierce criticism from influential Chartist leader O'Connor and prompted police pursuit, forcing MC Duell to flee to France. In the United States, the Amistadcus concluded, with 35 surviving Africans returning to Sierra Leone, funded by abolitionists. In 1839, aboard the Spanish slave ship Amistad en route from Cuba, 53 Africans, led by Joseph Sincoul, revolted, killing the captain and some crew, demanding return to Africa. Abolitionists provided legal defense. Former President and then Congressman John Adams defended them, citing the Declaration of Independence. Each person has the right to life and liberty. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled, the Africans were not legal slaves, but victims of illegal trafficking, entitled to resist kidnapping and be freed and returned to Africa. This victory for abolitionists intensified the struggle against slavery in America.